A lot of people have been sort of thinking about electric competing with jet fuel, and it just can't win head to head, right? Jet fuel is just too energy efficient, 40 to 50 times as energy efficient on a weight adjusted basis. And so once you come there, you say to yourself, but I still know that the energy transition is real, sustainability is real. All these trends are going to happen in aviation. So how's it going to happen? And the answer is it's only going to happen as electric presents new forms of air travel capability that jet fuel can't match. That's how electric is going to win.
Welcome to Sustainability in the Air, the world's first podcast dedicated to sustainable aviation. I'm your host, Shashank Nigam, the CEO of Simply Flying. On this show, I speak with aviation leaders, innovators, and policymakers driving real action, separating the signal from the noise to spotlight what's truly moving the industry forward. The same focus that is at the heart of our new book, Sustainability in the Air, Volume 2. In it, Dirk Singer and I take stock of how far the industry has come and how far we still need to go. With the global carbon budget potentially running out by 2032, the clock is ticking. But the most promising solutions today aren't just environmentally sound, they are economically superior as well. From SAF and contrail mitigation to direct air capture, the book offers a practical roadmap for aviation's journey to net zero. Get your copy today. Link in the show notes. My guest today is Mark Allen, the CEO of Electra. Electra has cracked the code on something that sounds impossible, a fixed-wing aircraft that can take off or land in just 150 feet, meaning you could literally take off from a football pitch and land on a Manhattan helipad. Mark left his role as the Chief Strategy Officer at Boeing to join the startup because he had a revelation. Electric aviation shouldn't try to beat jet fuel at its own game, but should do things jet fuel simply cannot do. Using revolutionary blown lift technology with 8 electric propellers, which I had a chance to touch and feel myself at an unveil in Washington, D.C., near Washington, D.C., Electra's aircraft achieves lift coefficients significantly higher than conventional airplanes. They've already secured over 2,200 orders, from ferrying passengers between corporate campuses in the Nordics to military cargo missions in remote locations. Electra is reshaping what's possible in aviation. It's no wonder they're a full chapter in our latest book. Enjoy this conversation as we explore the future of electric aviation. Mark, you have had a storied career at Boeing. Why did you even jump ship to a startup like Electra?
Oh, I love that question. I recognized I took a year off after Boeing. Right? I left in 2023, and I spent 2024 for what I purposefully called a time of rest and discovery. Mm-hmm. And as I started that period, if you ask me what I was doing next, the likeliest answer I would have given you was something that was not aerospace. During that time that I was away, really meeting with a lot of people, a lot of mentors, counselors, advisors, looking across industries, talking with a lot of opportunities, I just realized during that time that I just love airplanes. I love what they do for the world, for people, for goods, for cargo, for business. I love making them and being part of that incredibly difficult integration process of bringing a whole airplane ecosystem together, not just the plane itself. And I realized that with that passion, that I needed to stay right where the passion was. I wanted to stay building airplanes. And once I got there, I knew that I didn't want to do anything other than to change the future of air travel. And that meant really going where technology was going to fundamentally remake transportation or national security in the air. And I just followed that thread. I said, well, okay, I know all the advanced air mobility companies that are out there. I had run the disruptive mobility unit for Boeing. I was the chief strategy officer. I served as the chairman for Whisk Aero and did that deal with Larry Page. I had interacted with all the CEOs of all the advanced air mobility companies that were looking for partnership, capital, being a part of our supply arrangements. And so I sort of had a good view of each of them. And as I step back and ask myself, well, okay, well, if I want to be where I want to make airplanes, where airplanes are bringing technology into aviation in a way that changes the future, I've got to find a place that really has the right mix of a business model that works, technology that's within reach, and is regulatorily viable. I want to see all those three things present, and then that's going to be the change the world moment. And I realized as I started looking around at all these different companies and talking to folk that Electra was the one that had all three. And as that dawned on me, I started to take it seriously in a way that I hadn't before. And so I went into about a 2 or 3 month process of just deep due diligence. Like, I had run the corporate development department at Boeing. And so in the same way you do diligence the acquisition of a company, I just started doing the deep due diligence, signed the NDAs, did the finance, did the people, did the technology, did the customers and organization. I just worked my way through it step by step. And by the time I got to the backside, I just had really come to the persuasion that this was a real business, that it was creating real value for customers, and that John Langford had been able to answer a question that no one else was yet even really asking, which was, how do I find a way that electric can do something that jet fuel cannot do? A lot of people have been sort of thinking about electric competing with jet fuel, and it just can't win head to head, right? Jet fuel is just too energy efficient, 40 to 50 times as energy efficient on a weight adjusted basis. And so once you come there, you say to yourself, but I still know that the energy transition is real. Sustainability is real. All these trends are going to happen in aviation. So how's it going to happen? And the answer is it's only going to happen as electric presents new forms of air travel capability that jet fuel can't match. That's how electric is going to win. It's going to win itself into the system. It's going to become valuable. It's going to drive scales of economy and capital, which allow it to further develop and increase its own energy power densities so that over time it plays a bigger and bigger role in aviation. I just kind of, that whole thread of thought, it took about 4 or 5 months to really unfold. And by the time it got totally spooled out in front of me, I was like, well, this is obvious. This is so obvious. I should have seen it 6 months ago. And I jumped in.
Wow. What a story arc, right? What a story arc. And this is very interesting to note. Electric should not be competing with jet fuel, but instead what can be a blue ocean that electric can get into, in a new market that can create it. And I saw this firsthand when I was at your Electra launch event. And what stood out was you can take off from anywhere. You can land at heliports in Manhattan. That just blew my mind. Has that always been the case? What's so special about this technology?
You first have to believe in it. And it's really hard for me first, and for most people, to look at a fixed wing airplane that is just an airplane and looks just like an airplane, and then to come to the slow, dawning realization that it actually can land in the profile of a helicopter. It's like, it blows your mind. It's so counterintuitive because for 100 plus years, we've watched fixed wing airplanes operate in a certain way. And here comes, the new guy on the block, Electra, going, hey, I can fly like a helicopter with the economics and the safety of a fixed wing airplane. In fact, in many ways, better, frankly, than even a fixed wing airplane, because I could take you into the details of the safety, the redundancy of the multiple motors, and the way that the multiple motors works with multiple propellers. But the fundamental is, this is not air travel that anybody's ever envisioned before. And so it takes a half minute for people's brains to, get contorted into this new position.
Wow. My brain was expanded when I saw how you can take off from just the end of the runway rather than using the entire runway. You mentioned certification as well. What makes the path to certification easier for Electra than, let's say, an Archer or a Joby or even a Whisk?
So we are fundamentally different from every one of these other advanced air mobility efforts. They are, first of all, dependent on an entirely new set of regulations, the powered lifts certification regulations. We are not. We are a Part 23 aircraft. We've been working with the FAA now through workshops for years on that basis. And when the FAA looks at our airplane, they understand the system. It's pretty conventional in enough respects to fit right in that box. We're just an airplane. even though we bring this incredible new capability to bear. So being able to be Part 23 certified is the key. That's the key. That's a huge key differentiator that the others right now can't touch. The turbo generator, which is the heart of the propulsion system for this hybrid electric aircraft, is going to be a new product, but it's going to look a lot like an APU on a big airplane. And so the FAA has got lots of experience with APUs. The efforts that will be, in some respect, the newest will be the batteries, right? Thermal management and the motors. Now, the good news is there's a lot of work being done on those by all the other advanced air mobility companies who have been pushing through with their G1s in front of the FAA first. So in some respects, that makes the ground a little bit easier to tread. But we're not trying to build a powered lift vehicle. We're building just an airplane. So we'll use some of the technologies that they'll help advance through CERT, but we'll integrate them into a system that itself is just an airplane. And I think that's a massive advantage.
Right, right. You don't have those moving rotors. You don't have those adjusting blades. In fact, you showed me the blade and the blown lift technology. Can you tell us a little about how blown lift enables short takeoff and landing?
You're absolutely right that we don't have any tilt rotors. We don't have any rotating wings. I mean, all of these concepts you've seen on a lot of these other advanced air mobility aircraft. It's a fixed wing with a fixed propeller. But blown lift is a aerodynamic principle that's been around for quite a while. There are a lot of vehicles you know about that deploy it. So think about the C-17, which offers what is in that field considered short field performance for a large military cargo airplane. But it's blowing just a portion of the wing with its design. What's novel about what we're doing is we're blowing the entire wing. With these distributed electric propulsion system motors attached into 8 propellers across the wing, 4 on each side, we're managing to create blown lift effects that are massive multiples of the lift coefficient you see in standard aviation. Normal airplane is 2 or 3x of a lift coefficient. We modeled for 9 as we were designing the EL2, the 2-seat prototype that we've been flying for over a year. In actual flight, we've observed closer to 13. So we modeled for 13 on the EL9. And in actual effect, we've blown that away. And I can't tell you just right now what that number is. It's a little like that, but it's substantially higher than even what we originally modeled. And that's coming out of the wind tunnel testing we were just doing at MIT a few months ago. So that gives you a sense of the power of blown lift. How does it work? Hard to demonstrate it without having you there by the plane to walk you around it. But think of it like this. As those props blow air in very intentional and directed ways up and over the wing, when it's done correctly, the air that comes off the flaps and the flaperons, basically, as it rejoins the stream, the effect is to virtually extend the wing because the attachment is such that it holds that pattern of lift and extends it for several feet below where the wing and the flap actually stop. So you're creating virtual structure. The wing is fooled. It thinks like it's going faster than it is. And the plane is the beneficiary of getting all that extra lift.
Wow, so this is the AI wing then.
This is a whole new century of wing because of what it's doing in integration with the distributed electric propulsion system. They're no longer, it used to be the propulsion system was just, grabbing some air, pushing it hard out of the back and just dragging the airplane forward. And then as the wing got dragged through the air, it created lift. And the LDs, curves, and all of that. But what's happening here is we're using the propulsion system itself to change that airflow in such ways that we're generating the lift because of the propulsion, not because they're dragging the airplane through static air. And that's obviously hard. It's easy to say. It's very hard to do. We've watched a lot of people try it over the years. And we're just really proud of our extraordinary engineering core because what they have done is what many others were not able to do. They've demonstrated it now with its 2-seat prototype, which is flown over and over and over again. And so, yeah, that ability to capture principle, but turn it into an application, put patents around it, build a team around it, and then further expand the trade secret into the 9-seat passenger version. That's what lies at the heart of the promise for Electra.
Why is this so hard to do? Because the C-17 did it. Why aren't more manufacturers doing it? Why is Electra the first?
Yeah, it's just a really hard set of flight physics interactions. Controlling airflow and airstreams is just not a simple thing. And then understanding how to design all of the aerostructure around it in such a way as to enable it and not impede it. And so as to create these maximal lift coefficients. It's a non-obvious art. And so, yeah, my hat's off to the extraordinary engineers who've been working on this for years.
Wow, fantastic. With your successful demonstrations at NASA Langley, what key technical milestones remain before the EL9's planned 2027 test flight?
So we want to keep expanding the flight envelope. We have to work on the precision landing to persuade ourselves that a pilot of average skill can land this airplane, on a penny and stop the airplane short. That's what begins to open up this helicopter-like access. So we'll spend some time doing that, which is a matter of the flight control systems, all of the integrated electronics that are between the flight control system and the propulsion controls. We have flown with 40-degree flaps. We haven't gone to 60-degree yet, which is the max. And so we'll want to fly at 60 and see what that looks like. We've flown at 22 knots indicated airspeed. We had no buffet. So the stall speed is lower still, somewhere in the teens. So there are some additional flight envelope expansion efforts that we'll do as we keep testing out the EL2. But we'll also start to shift and use the EL2 as a demonstration vehicle in communities to create demand for this new capability. We want communities to see how quiet it is, to really sense how safe it is when they see it flying just like an airplane, like a fixed wing airplane. And we want them to begin to think in whole new ways about where air travel can be done from. And we had a great visit from NASA administrator in December. Administrator Bill Nelson, came out and he flew our EL2. Look, he's the first federal agency head to fly any electric airplane. Period. Full stop. We've started later than a lot of people. We've been a little more stealth operation than a lot of folk. And so I get a lot of questions like, well, how did you get from where you were to there, flying at the head of a federal agency first? The answer is, the confidence and the trust in the system, obviously, that led him to be able to say yes and us to be able to execute it. And so as we go into this next year, we want to be able to demonstrate that same level of trust and confidence to communities around the country. And so we'll be doing with our customers some demonstrations, flying into and out of places that are not airports, and helping people reimagine their own transportation network. That's when it gets fun.
My mind is still blown, but I'll tell you what else is mind blowing. You've got 2,100 aircraft order from 52 operators. How in the world do you do that for an aircraft that's not flown yet?
2,200 out of 54 now. It just went up last week.
Keeps growing.
Yeah. Two things, right? The first is clearly value proposition. One of our internal orienting values as a company is customer focused. Staying really focused on the customer, asking what the customer needs. This airplane delivers on 4 value propositions that make it unique to our customers. It's very simple, and different customers value different parts of this value prop differently. But if you remember this, you understand exactly what we're offering. Access, noise, cost, emissions. 1, 2, 3, 4. Access, noise, cost, emissions. And most of our customers want some combination of those. We have a lot of, commercial customers in the United States who are dealing with airports that are getting shut down because of noise restrictions. So the idea of operating a hybrid electric airplane out of those locations and justifying the airport's continued operation, they love that. Huge. We have operators in Europe who are finding their business model doesn't work because they're being taxed for emissions. We have huge emissions reductions because the operators can effectively choose for the exact same cost whether to use battery, which drives battery replacement costs, or to use jet fuel, which drives both cost and emissions. And so they can choose the equalized cost of battery replacement and significantly lower their emissions. So we have some customers who are very focused on driving value there. We have other customers who are very focused on the cost advantage. They're operating helicopters today, and we can drive a 70% advantage to the helicopter with the EL9. They can fly the exact same mission, but they can go faster and fly farther, right? That's a huge opportunity. We have defense customers who take these same values and they realize that for the cost advantage, they can spread their budget across the entire fight, not across part of the fight, because we so significantly reduce their spend that they would have otherwise on the last tactical leg for cargo logistics deployment. So, access, cost, noise, emissions, these four really define the unique value proposition that the airplane has to our customers. And that's why our customers are such a broad set. We are selling to helicopter operators. We are selling to fixed wing, 9-passenger regional cargo operators. We are selling to jet operators who want to preserve access to certain airports like JSX, right? We're selling 60% of our orders outside the United States. So it's a global demand. We've got operators who are working in place without a lot of infrastructure like India, right? Where Blade India, Jet Set Go, and other customers recognize the value proposition. We're selling to Europe, the Nordics, where we have customers who are, corporate air groups or corporate travel groups, and they are moving people between corporate campuses in different parts of the Nordics, oftentimes including car driving, ferry riding, and more cars, spending 6 hours going from one campus to the other, when we can just fly there over some water in about 30 minutes. But the difference is with access, they can actually land in the parking lots of these two corporate campuses. A mission that's hard for the helicopter to do because of whether it's weather or over water. There are lots of reasons why the fixed wing, fixed prop solution makes this possible.
When I was there, it wasn't just the commercial proposition that stunned me. Yes, there was JSX CEO Alex talking about it. There was Kanika from JetSetGo talking about it, which was all impressive. But you shared a very interesting use case of military use and defense use for the aircraft that blew my mind. Are you able to share a bit of insight into the military operations for Electra?
Yeah. Today, both the Army and the Air Force fly different types of cargo missions. Both play a role in solving for the last tactical leg, getting bandages, bullets, beans, blood, out to operating bases where servicemen and women are deployed. This airplane is the ultimate treadmill for that kind of resupply because it can carry great loads, right? You can carry 1,000 pounds, 1,000 nautical miles in this airplane. Okay, that's great range. You can load this airplane heavier, right? You can fly 2,700 pounds and you've still got a 330 nautical mile range. Fantastic if you're trying to get goods into a difficult environment like perhaps the Ukraine from other parts of Europe. You can also use this airplane in really unique ways because it's quiet and it can land on a soccer field, which you can find in almost any major city around the world. And so the special forces are interested, thinking about infill and exfil that you can do with a quiet airplane that has these levels of safety, can carry these kinds of loads, has a door that slides back and can slide back in flight to allow egress. When this plane lands, it becomes a generator. It's a 600 kilowatt generator that can do 1 megawatt bursts. Now you think about those pictures. You've seen pictures of Chinooks hauling these huge generators on chains underneath them, flying them, dropping them in someplace. What if your EL9 just flies in and lands and you plug into it? It's just a plug and play. And now you can charge your comms, your mobile command unit, your drones. You can even charge your directed energy systems. So you have this use case of a mobile power unit that's built in to this last tactical leg cargo vehicle. You've got the ability to make it its own mobile command unit that has its own built-in generator power system. So yeah, a lot of versatility, and that versatility, customers like versatility because it lets them design what they need. And that's what we want to do. We want to help the customers design what they need so that they can take care of the warfighter and deliver a successful mission.
Well, I'm just trying to combine both of these. You're saying this is a generator unit and it can go into remote places. Can you do milk runs in Alaska and provide power to remote communities as well? Or am I thinking too much here?
No, I mean, it's absolutely within the realm of possibility. And we've had conversations with an airline that's thinking about how do you reach some of those communities in Alaska.
Wow, fantastic. I also recall the partnerships, the strategic partnerships with the heavyweights you've got like Honeywell and Lockheed Martin and Safran. How do those help you?
Those are critical. I mean, the Safran partnership is all about developing the world's first certified turbo generator for a hybrid electric airplane. And we're doing it as a joint agile development program. And just last or 2 weeks ago, we had a dozen Safran engineers out here in Manassas with us, workshopping the program and its progress. They'll be back out here in another week or so. So to be able to take that depth of capability and partnership and connect it intimately to the mission that we're trying to deliver in our team, that's what the strategic framework is all about, right? You put the right strategic agreements in place to enable that kind of collaboration. With Honeywell, they're delivering the fly-by-wire system. This will be, one of the first Part 23 airplanes ever with 9 packs in a fly-by-wire system. So, we think that fly-by-wire system, A, is going to enable that precision landing I talked about earlier. B, it also becomes the hooks for the future autonomy that is bound to come down the road. And you do that with people who really know that technology better than anybody else, and that's Honeywell. Lockheed's been a great partner, helping us think about operations analysis and where this airplane could hunt in the defense mission. And currently, we're working with them in a couple of non-U.S. Environments, looking at potential industrial participation proposals where it might make sense for us, them, and local customers to work together. So, yeah, we're really grateful for these strategic partnerships, and we're learning a lot from them.
It's very, very, very exciting, I have to admit. Let's talk about sustainability as well.
Mhm.
You mentioned electric. What about emissions, not just noise? Compare this to a helicopter or even an eVTOL, which I'm guessing going to be an increasingly prominent category going forward. Does Electra make air travel more sustainable as well?
When we use the word sustainable, it covers every aspect of sustainability. Emissions is obviously a very important part of that. The airplane will substantially reduce emissions. So on short-haul flights, 100 nautical miles or less, we expect to see 60% emissions reduction relative to a standard conventional propulsion aircraft. That's a massive reduction. So, and now, how you measure it, of course, requires the full life cycle analysis, because you've got to start thinking about the emissions that go into electricity generation and the emission or that come out of electricity generation and the emissions that come out of battery replacement development. So there's still some work to be done to really create the full life cycle assessment. eVTOLs, I think will be able to lower emissions a little bit more, honestly, because they're not hybrid; they're just all electric. Having said that, we think they're going to be significantly range constrained when they get through certification. And I'll make it up, but let's just say they're constrained to 25 nautical miles of operation. Just hard to give a customer a lot of value with that. So our goal is to create a product that significantly improves the sustainability of air travel and does it in a way that creates whole new capabilities so the customers can themselves, the airline operators, is who I mean by customers, can go and offer the consumers, passengers, cargo that needs to move, can offer them better ways to move, better connectedness at better pricing. We think that's how ultimately you drive real progress on long-term sustainability. You make the whole system sustainable. That's emissions, economics, noise, all those things come together to really make sustainability a true thing. And we've seen that in other industries, right? They have the economics, the other operating elements, the emissions, they all have to hunt as a package, or it's short-term and it dies at some point because the winds of fashion change. We're not building a company for the winds of fashion. We're building a company to create value. That value will create sustainable air travel for communities everywhere. That's our vision. That's what we say internally. Sustainable air travel for communities everywhere. And this is how we're doing it.
Wow, this is indeed exciting. Now, 150-foot spaces for takeoff, right? What specific routes of markets can you open up that currently aren't accessible?
Let me give you a good one that is accessible, but let me talk to you about the emissions and the cost savings.
Sure.
So one of our customers, Cape Air, flies from Logan Airport to Provincetown. They fly it with a conventional turboprop, 9-passenger. They have to line up and wait behind the 747s and 737s that are using that same Logan runway. And they probably sit and burn fuel for 20 minutes before they get up in the air. And then they fly for about 20 or 30 minutes and they're there. It's a very short hop, very long drive. That's why people are taking that flight. Drive because of the traffic, bridges, etc. So with the EL9, you live up in Boston. You should go look at it next time you're up there. There's an intersecting runway. It's 1.5. It's rarely used, but if you look at the structure of 1.5, it's a perfect overflight runway for something like an EL9 to take off like a helicopter, be far above the intersecting runways, and be able to fly out immediately and not burn fuel, sit on the ground. So think about this, an electric taxi, take off immediately, land 20, 30 minutes later. And not only are you enjoying the huge reductions on route, but you've got even bigger emissions reductions from saving all that time just sitting on the ground burning fuel. I mean, so you start to learn how to operate the airplane in a way that saves fuel and reduces emissions because you use the capability in whole new ways.
Well, I remember 15L is this corner in the middle of nowhere runway at Logan, which I've seen barely any aircraft use. So I think it just intersects two runways. That's what it does.
Correct. And what a better, if you look at it and you could pull it up on your Google Maps and just measure off 150 feet, which is this teeny little stub.
Wow.
There's lots of space left before you get to the intersection. And this airplane climbs so quickly, the overflight is deconflicted. So yeah, those are the kinds of exciting things that we can't wait to try.
So the entire vision here that I'm getting from Electra is that of direct aviation. You don't need to go to an airport. You don't need to think conventional runways and systems. What's your large vision for how direct aviation can change the world? It's been 100 years of aviation. How will direct aviation change the world? Perhaps, think big, next 100 years.
Well, we believe that direct electric propulsion lets you do things with the wing you never could do before. So blown lift is the first step, but NASA has hired us in their advanced aircraft concepts for environmental sustainability to take the next step, which is to think about this tech stack scaling up to 100 or 200 passenger airplane. Now, it won't just look like a multiplication of size of the L9, but it'll take the insight and the understanding that we learn from this necessary first step on the ladder with the EL9 and let us apply it to that next big thing. And, as our team begins to look at it, we're pretty convinced that we ought to be able to get a wing that is much smaller than the conventional wing, which of course greatly reduces drag, reduces the fuel required, and so lets you significantly lower emissions. So more fuel efficient, less emissions in future airplanes because they've got wings that look smaller than you ever thought feasible before because of the way you integrate the distributed electric propulsion across those wings. So there are a number of other pieces to it. I won't spill all the great secrets right here, right now. But that gives you a sense of the vision. We do believe that technology has to ladder up in aerospace. You don't just get to start doing the hardest thing. You have to earn the right to do it. The EL2 has let us earn the right to do the EL9. The EL9 will be a Part 23 certification. When we do that well, that will help us earn the right to do a Part 25. What size aircraft that'll be, we'll see. When we do that well, that'll let us earn the right to keep going with things like the ACES work and to think about what the large airplane of the future looks like. The trick is going to be to stay ahead with innovation, continuously innovating and learning, and really finding the bounds, the very edge cases of where electric can do things that jet fuel cannot do. And we're going to keep doing that, starting here and growing to, I think, some pretty exciting futures.
Wow. I'm very excited, Mark, and I wish you all the best. Now, the final part of this interview, we learn a bit about you, Mark. And I've got some very simple and easy questions for you, which you have not had a chance to look at. So we call this a rapid fire round. And I'll ask you something simple like, Mark, what's your favorite movie?
Oh my goodness, favorite movie? You're talking to a guy who my wife will tell you I'm all into optionality. So you try to nail me down to like my favorite movie. I'm like, oh, I got 10 tops. Let me tell you what the 10 tops are. But I do love The Shawshank Redemption. That is a great film. I do love Terminator 2. Terminator 2 is a fun action film. There's a whole long list.
Okay, I see the genres. Okay, fine. Favorite book?
Well, the Holy Bible is actually probably my favorite book. Spent a lot of time in the Bible, learn a lot from the Lord. I also love, there's a wonderful book that came out just a couple years ago that was called Boys in the Boat. It was about the University of Washington rowing team and their trip to the Olympics in the 1930s. I rowed for a short time in college, and that book just really hit home at what excellence looks like for a team rowing together in one direction, doing incredible things against all odds.
I believe that's a movie now as well.
Yeah, they did. They made a movie out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Favorite city?
Hmm. So, this will get me in trouble in a lot of places, but I'll tell you what I used to tell people. I'm not sure this still holds. I gotta examine this. I used to tell people I wish I could pick up Boston, put it on top of San Diego, and fill it with people from DC and New York.
That's the most creative answer I've ever heard. I love it. I love it. Okay. What is something that you do in your free time?
I exercise. I go to my children's sporting events, whether they play in the games, which my younger daughter still does in high school, or whether they're at cool colleges with great sports teams and invite me to come out and watch a game with them. So those are some passions.
Any particular type of exercise? Are you a runner? Are you a climber? Sailor?
I have bad knees from old basketball days, so I tend to do things that are actually indoors now, which is like the elliptical, the rowing machine, the stationary bike. Those are the three that I use the most. So, okay. And I fly private. And what happens for me on that is it kind of cycles, because as things get really busy, I fall out of currency, and then I got to go get current again, and I fly a lot. So it goes in cycles, but I still do have my private. I do fly.
Very, very interesting. What is something you'd still like to learn?
I do think that autonomy is going to challenge this world in a lot of ways. And so I still want to learn more about how we best integrate autonomy to our existing systems and really use it for the good of mankind. There's going to be a lot of fear. And so how we do that, I don't think is an obvious answer, but I'm really excited about the future it holds, and I've got a lot to learn there.
Wow. Final two questions. What is the best advice you've received?
Before my wife and I were married, we had some friends of ours tell us that the most important message in marriage is to believe the best. Believe the best in your spouse. When you hear something, you can almost always take it from a skeptical view or a trusting view. And that message is a really powerful and good message for marriage, but also, frankly, for life. So believe the best, I think, is an important message.
Believe the best. I love it. I'm going to have some time to think about this. And finally, if we are speaking 1 year from today, and we are popping champagne, what are we celebrating?
I think relative to Electra, if it's a year from now and we're popping champagne, it's because we have done what we said we were going to do, right? Which is we've advanced from PDR through to CDR. We've announced our production strategy, and we're very excited about that. And the world goes, boom, that's a big idea. I hadn't thought about that for production strategy. It's because customers are coming on board, paying deposits, and they're racking and stacking up. And that capital is just enabling the further development of the company and the readiness of the product to get to market. Those things are, it's an ecosystem. And so there's no single silver bullet that makes you go, yeah, but every single one of them is breaking through and shaping the future for all of us to be able to experience the EL9 in the parking lots near our houses.
Wow. Fantastic. This has been so inspiring, Mark, just as inspiring when I first met you. Thank you very much. And I really appreciated the time.
Well, you're too kind, but I really appreciate your interest. And I really appreciate what you're working on in the book, and I look forward to reading it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Sustainability in the Air. Aviation is one of the hardest to decarbonize industries, yet there are multiple paths to get to net zero. Awareness is key to a green future. So please give us your support to help our sustainable aviation insights reach a wider audience. You can do this by sharing this episode on your network, on LinkedIn, Twitter, or even WhatsApp. Or perhaps you might consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to this episode. You can start a conversation with us by writing to us at podcast@simpliflying, that's simply with an i.com. And for more content on sustainable aviation, please visit our website green.simplifying.com and join the movement. Sustainability in the Air is an original podcast by Simplifying. The show is produced by Juraj Toth in Slovakia. Dirk Singer is our Director of Sustainability, who leads research for each interviewee out of Greenwich, UK. Shubhadeep Pau is our Supervising Editor based out of Mumbai and Singapore. The articles are written by Ayushi Badola in Dehradun in India and Meera Hull in Montreal, Quebec. Creative design is led by Ligia Esteve in Montreal. Baiba Dreamen is the project director for the show based out of Valencia, Spain. Special thanks to Wendy Sim in Singapore. And I'm Shashank Nigam, the CEO of Simplifying and your host. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn.